Unfortunately, I think your motorcycling days are over.
Like hell they are.
Let's face it, everyone gets older. While in many ways it really sucks, it is a privilege that not everyone gets to experience. As we approach our golden years, any physical impairments may affect your confidence to handle a big, heavy motorcycle. But before you retire your motorcycle to the garage and replace its seat with a rocking chair, consider one of the options in this video. The first option is obviously to get a smaller, lighter and/or lower bike. Over the years, the weight and indeed the seat heights of many motorcycles has increased dramatically.
Oh my God!
But there are still quite a few good choices available to purchase brand new. Let's have a quick look at some of what I consider to be the very best ones. And one bike which many might consider a good choice, but in reality it just isn't. Royal Enfield's 650 Interceptor would be an excellent choice for anyone looking to downsize, particularly if you prefer a traditional classic styled motorcycle. In this regard, the 650 Interceptor ticks all the boxes. Its 648cc, single overhead cam, air and oil cooled parallel twin has 4 valves per cylinder and produces 47 horsepower with 52 Newton meters of torque. Its seat height of 800mm, combined with its low curb weight of 202 kilos, makes it an easy to manage motorcycle and well worth consideration. The Kawasaki W800 is another very classic looking motorcycle. Its 773cc single overhead cam air-cooled parallel twin engine also has 4 valves per cylinder. While it produces just the 1 horsepower more, it does have more torque, and its seat height is a tad lower as well at 790mm. But its weight is 19 kilos more at 221 kilos. Although comparing it to the Interceptor, there doesn't feel to be any weight difference at all. This next bike is a much more modern looking machine, and many of you may not be familiar with this brand. You may even be sceptical because this bike is made in China. It is the CF Moto 700 CLX Heritage, which also comes in a sport and an adventure version. I've never ridden a CF Moto myself, but I know a bloke who owns one, so I gave him a ring. He's an ex-motorcycle mechanic and I trust his opinion. He couldn't speak more highly of this brand. Matter of fact, CF Moto have been in a partnership with KTM for quite a while now, and they do indeed manufacture or assemble many KTM engines and frames, so the quality is there. If you have any doubts, I recommend that you go and check them out yourself. Their bike has a 693cc double overhead camshaft liquid cooled parallel twin, also with 4 valves per cylinder. It produces 73 horsepower, substantially more than the 2 previous bikes, and with 68 Newton meters of torque, combined with its curb weight of just 205 kilos, its performance figures are also much better. Its seat height of 800mm is suitable for most riders, and as far as value for money goes, nothing even comes close to a CF Moto. This bike has way more gizmos than any other bike on this list. It features a slipper clutch, self-adjusting headlight, upside-down forks, fully adjustable front suspension, semi-adjustable rear suspension, 2 riding modes, a USB charging port, and it even has a cruise control. All this is standard equipment. If a cruiser is more your style, hot off the presses and potentially a very good choice could be Honda's new Shadow Phantom. It is by far the best Harley clone I've ever seen come out of Japan. So good in fact that I'm surprised that Harley Davidson hasn't tried to sue them again, as they even copied Harley Davidson's own colour scheme. It has a 745cc single overhead camshaft liquid-cooled V-twin engine with 3 valves per cylinder and produces 45 horsepower and 65 newton meters of torque. Although it is still quite heavy, with a curb weight of 246 kilos, its seat height is very low at just 650 millimeters. It also features a low maintenance shaft final drive. The last bike I'm going to mention is the Indian Scout. Its amazing looking 1133cc liquid cooled V-twin engine produces 100 horsepower and 97 newton meters of torque. It is a bike that many riders may consider when looking to downsize because it is a very cool looking motorcycle. And even though it is still quite heavy, with a curb weight of 256 kilos, it does have an extremely low seat height of just 650 millimeters. But herein lies a problem. The bike is so low that it has bugger all suspension travel. If you live in an area with bumpy roads, the Scout will literally pound your spine into oblivion. And if those roads have corners, you will be scraping the pegs on every single one of them. Don't get me wrong, I love these new Indian Scouts. I have since day one. They look great, sound fantastic, and have plenty of power. But if you're thinking about buying one, I very strongly encourage you to go and take one for a decent test ride. That's just a few of the very best motorcycle options. The tip of the iceberg. Trikes. If you're really struggling on two wheels due to aging or surgeries on hips or knees or whatever, have you ever considered all the different three-wheeled options available? You can't drop a three-wheeler and you don't have to hold them up either. They are very cool looking machines and certainly a lot cooler than having to install training wheels on your bike. There are two styles of trikes which you can buy. Trikes like the ones that Harley Davidson have on offer are basically a three-wheeled motorcycle. You can also buy kits to convert many other motorcycles into a trike. But remember, you will not have a reverse gear, and you do really need a reverse gear on a trike. Even the Harley trikes have an electric reverse gear, which isn't really ideal, but it's a shitload better than having nothing. These types of trikes do require some upper body strength while cornering. Their rear wheel track, or the distance between the rear wheels, is pretty narrow. They also have telescopic front forks, and they have a high centre of gravity. None of these things are conducive to an excellent handling trike, and indeed it is possible to roll a trike of this type. The second type of trikes, like this one, sit much lower. They are basically a motorcycle up front and a car up the back. They are also longer and wider, which adds substantially to their stability and makes them virtually impossible to roll over. The handling on these trikes is like a Formula 1 racing car. They literally stick to the road like glue. Because as you turn the handlebars, their curved profile front motorcycle tyre gradually rolls onto its smaller radius, literally making the trike want to go round a corner and the rear wheels will just follow along. It's like cornering on rails. They have a proper mechanical reverse gear and many of them have good boot space for luggage. Some have the old V-dub Beetle engines. They generally offer passengers a comfortable and relaxing ride. And as far as a rider goes, these big trikes are absolutely the bee's knees. The third option is a reverse trike, such as a Can-Am Spider F3, or their more touring orientated RT model. Both feature a 1330cc double overhead cam inline triple cylinder engine with 4 valves per cylinder. The engine produces 115 horsepower with 130 newton meters of torque. Seat height is 775 millimeters Not that it really matters, as you don't have to put your feet down when you come to a stop anyway. Equipped with stability control, traction control, and all that other electronic wizardry, they are very technically advanced machines. Although pushed hard, they will lift a wheel. With a top speed of 205 kilometres an hour, for those looking for power and speed, you just can't go past a Can-Am Spider. It's a great choice. But in the twisties, they do require constant attention on the steering. It's not really that relaxing, but it's still fun. At least it is for the rider, because any passengers will just hate it with a passion. There's a reason Can-Am Spiders have massive grab rails for a passenger. They literally have to hold on for dear life for fear of being thrown off sideways. However, it isn't so much of an issue on the touring model. Can-Am also have their Riker models, with a 2-cylinder 600cc engine or a 3-cylinder 900cc engine. This fourth option is the option I chose. I've always admired sidecars and their heritage. When the opportunity to purchase one came up late last year, I jumped at it. You can purchase a sidecar to fit on pretty much any motorcycle you like. But while you don't necessarily need a reverse gear with a sidecar, it is a pretty handy feature to have. I read many negative things about Ural outfits, but many of these comments are made by people with no real-world experience. They just repeat what they've read somewhere else. So I decided to find out for myself, and I bit the bullet and bought one. I read about Ural struggling at highway speeds, and with just 40 horsepower, I got to admit, I was a little concerned for sure. But it proved to be absolute rubbish. My Ural sidecar outfit has no problem at all cruising at 105 kilometres an hour with a passenger. Sure, it's no powerhouse, but it easily gets the job done. It's very easy to maintain, as it's basically like an old bike from the 1950s or 60s. And in many ways, to be totally honest, it is probably the worst motorcycle that I've ever owned. Sometimes it's hard to find neutral. When the sun is shining, it's hard to see the idiot lights. The gearbox is certainly old school with straight cut gears. But there's a knack to changing the gears, and once you master it, it's fine. You can travel with 2 passengers, you have absolutely shitloads of storage space, and it's reliable. It also has a park brake and a mechanical reverse gear. So while it's probably the worst motorcycle that I've ever owned, it is also the best motorcycle that I've ever owned. I know, that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. But the bike just has so much character, I absolutely love it, and I will never ever sell it. As far as passenger comfort goes, nothing even closely compares to the amount of comfort a passenger in a sidecar experiences.
1, 2, 3, woo!
There's not a lot of room in here, is there?
If you're after that proper motorcycling experience, although they take longer to learn the necessary riding skills, and they are not for everyone, you just cannot go past a sidecar outfit. In particular, the necessary cornering skills needed will depend on which part of the world you live in, as the correct technique depends on which side your sidecar is mounted on. In time, it will become natural, and even if you still have a solo motorcycle, your brain automatically switches between the 2 techniques, and you don't even have to think about it. While it is relatively easy to lift the sidecar wheel off the ground, it's quite normal. Keeping the sidecar in the air is called flying the chair, and it is something that you can learn to manage to stay in control. So, in summary, if you mainly do faster day rides on curvy roads and just want to have fun, you just can't go past a Can-Am Spider. They are basically a cafe racer with 3 wheels. A well set up sidecar outfit would also be a very good choice, but not a Ural. If you're a touring rider who does long trips, especially with a passenger, one of the big trikes would be the very best choice. Second best would be a sidecar outfit. I only say second best because sidecars do take more effort and concentration to ride. If you're a bit more adventurous and prefer to ride to remote locations on shitty roads, a Ural sidecar is by far the best option. If you're sticking to paved or gravel roads, you do not need a two-wheel drive model. These are only necessary if you plan to ride off-road or on bush tracks. If you want something for everyday use, the Can-Am Spider is again a very good choice, as is the first type of trikes I mentioned, the so-called three-wheeled motorcycles. As long as you're not in a hurry to reverse out of a parking space, that is. Both these types of three-wheelers are just easier to ride around the city. If you're old school and you just have to have a motorcycle like me, get a sidecar. They are lots of fun and you will still have a proper motorcycle. It just has a sidecar attached to it. Lastly, if none of these appeal to you, you could always get yourself a tuk-tuk. Even they can be fun.